I wanted to see MarcoMeatball's interview with ALISAIE and ALPHINAUD. Okay, so let's see. We're probably not gonna watch all of this.
So I figured in order to start, this is a music channel after all, although we talk about acting.
It's MarcoMeatball did an interview with ALISAIE and ALPHINAUD. It's 40 minutes long, so I can't watch the whole thing, but we're gonna skip through it and I will look at his different questions and that's how we're gonna handle it. And I'll give you the full link to the full video if you hear all of it.
You know, all this other stuff. I thought it would be really fun to watch the Dawn trailer together, since I know you've both seen it, but
Dawn
talk a little bit about the music and soak in, and yeah, let's dive into it.
Oh, they're gonna watch a trailer. How does MarcoMeatball feel about the song? Does he like it?
I dare say our destination will soon be in sight.
Enjoying yourself for a change?
See how his mouth curled up a little bit at the sides, and it had a attitude and style to it in the CGI trailer, and that's what I'm expecting to see on my benchmark character. So they need to redo the benchmarks so that my character will have a little smirk, but not too much, and a little bit of a dip in the middle of their lips on the top part, but a little bit of pouty lip on the bottom part, but not too much, but just enough, just like he has. There, see, look. Yeah, like that, like that. That's what I need for my character on the benchmark.
Come now. There's no cause for panic.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. He says, come now.
This one might make for a worthy opponent.
There's no cause for panic. Wow, he's so cool. Oh my god. Oh my god. Holy shit. Holy shit. Woo! Woo! Where do we go? Where do we go? Ba-ba-ba-da! Yeah! I don't know what they're saying after where do we go? It's just... Do you know? Do you know what it says? Hey, remember when he thought it was a rune fencer? We're so dumb. We're so dumb, man. Can you just bite out of the... Isn't that an artichoke? You can't just bite it raw, right? Yeah, Viper, yeah! I like this part of this song. I like that part. For the singing.
Might you have a moment to speak further?
Absolutely cock-blocked by this fucking thing. Yeah. Oh my god, because that's literally what it does. You remember when the Nutkin censored him when he was naked? It literally blocked his... Remember that? So of course. Oh my god, I just realized. Yes, dude. It did. Literally cock-blocked. That's me soon, as a cool Viper with a glowing weapon looking... Oh man, I want a taco. Oh, it has avocado on it. I think I would die. Yeah! Is that Amanda singing? I think it is. Man, she can sing such a high note. Did you hear what she just did? She's awesome. She's a real professional. It's a double rainbow. What does it mean?
There. Look, my
Aaronville.
friends.
Where is he?
Behold the scene of our next great adventure.
Hey, ALPHINAUD, that's you. Look.
You and your adventures. I trust you have not forgotten the true purpose of our voyage?
I have.
At last we have come to the land you call the New World.
I have forgotten it.
My home.
Aaronville.
Tura.
Why are we here again? That means. Whew. Summer. But
So cool.
My
That's
goodness, the production value is
not the
just
full
gone
trailer.
higher and higher. Not only that, but like you really get the sense that
Was
it's
it?
the start of a new adventure. It's a sort of celebratory
Maybe it
thing,
was.
right? It's crazy. How does it feel to you? I mean, like you see that, that's like, 10 years after the beginning of this thing, especially having like a role that you've both sort of embodied now for years and years and years. Like that changes you, you know what I mean? Like what's the perspective after this much time and after seeing something like that, which is so bright and exuberant?
It made me feel really emotional. I've seen it before. I don't know what it is about today, but I just felt really emotional just then watching it because it reminds you that we're like this big a part of it. I know that the twins are a huge part of it, but you listen, you watch that level. I mean, it's so cinematic.
Yeah.
And everyone
It is a
that
full
has
trailer.
been part of that game has been doing it for decades, not just us, And I was really struck by that just then, listening to the vocals and the music and the visuals, and you see new things in it every time, don't you? But it's epic, absolutely epic. And we know, because we're all voice actors, we're the last kind of piece of the puzzle. It's a good reminder when you watch something like that that we're like a drop in the ocean.
It wasn't quite the full
She's so
trailer,
humble.
but we first saw it at FanFest in London. That was wild because, I mean, however many people were there, we were in and amongst all those people watching the first
What?
trailer for the first time.
What?
I've never felt anything like that.
When
that was crazy. Everyone was so
why didn't he come say hi to me? Why did I see them?
The atmosphere.
Oh, they were there and I didn't know. Oh, well. Didn't I fall asleep? Didn't I have to go back to my hotel? Oh, wait, I remember now. Yeah, during the Lalafell-Chin section, I had to go back to my hotel and sleep. And I didn't come back till the next day. My bad. Okay, actually, that's on me. Forget it. Forget to say
In the
anything.
room was just charged with excitement when different characters kept popping up.
Launched.
Massive cheers. I mean, I'm sure you can see like the reaction online, can't you? I remember looking at you, Beth, and we were both just stunned by the reaction. And to think that we're a part of that, I mean, it's incredible.
So few actors get to be a part of something this big. It still shocks me. Like when we watch it, I'm like, I can't believe that's us. It's mad.
I know. We're still not used to it, are we? Because it's only like in the past few years that we've kind of really joined the community and kind of like really put ourselves out there. And so we hear firsthand about how important the game is to so many people.
Well,
So I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. What acting is really about?
Acting's about showing and putting stuff out there, throwing stuff out there. And actually, I don't know what you're like, Colin, but so often the note I get in the booth is just listen more, allow there to be a little bit more space or think less. Don't try and overthink it. Just just go with your first instinct. I've learned a lot through this game actually about acting and about what works and what is more believable. And often the note I get is do less, just breathe and do less. And that's where the truth
Honestly,
is.
it's really good advice.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's really good advice.
In general, we have a tendency to
With not just acting.
And for me in the booth, it's much easier when kind of access that kind of flow state where you are just in the moment and trusting your instincts as well. Because we have been with the characters for so long, there is a degree of a kind of instinct that takes over as well. Even though, you know, we don't know the intricacies of the ins and outs of storyline, we still have a kind of feeling for these characters. And so increasingly we're able to kind of call on that, aren't we?
In the grand scheme of things, it's a small but like incredibly important part of the process. So do you feel like a sense of ownership for those characters? Like when you watch it, you're like, that's me. And on top of that, the text it can be very verbose and very Shakespearean, and it's lilt and thing. Sometimes it almost feels like an audio drama. I don't know if you feel this way too, but when I played, I'm like, oh, it's like an audio drama. How do you navigate, I guess, both having ownership of a character and then also dealing with the intricacies and the difficulties that come with the text like that?
Before I was just thinking about what they just said about like how you should think less whenever you're trying to create, and I do think it's very true. Like the closer you can get to your first instinct, the better off you're going to be. And this is true for writing. This is true for really anything where you want to be honest. And it's like, I think, hold on a second, let me double check on this before. Basically you can get it your own way really easily by overthinking stuff. And actually this happens to me even when I'm playing the game. Like if you've ever been playing and you're doing fine, but then you start thinking about playing, like you start thinking about yourself in the raid or in the dungeon, and then like all of a sudden you start to play like, or like somebody will come and watch you do what you're doing, and then all of a sudden you're fucking up with everything because now you're thinking about it. Now you're thinking about what you're doing and you are a problem for yourself. I was trying to look up something else about related to that. Like a fun fact. I think it was the reason why Hunter S. Thompson wrote on a typewriter, because he wanted to minimize the distance between himself and the words. Like he wanted to get it as quickly as possible and as urgently as possible out of his head and onto the paper.
I'm assuming that, I don't know if you're Shakespearean trained or not, but I just assume you're British, so you are, but I don't know.
We've both done Shakespeare, haven't we?
Yes, yeah, we have. I think a lot of the tradition of British acting training is in the theatre. We do a lot of classical text, a lot of Shakespeare, which I think really lends itself well to the style of writing that 14 is written in, especially with characters like Urianger and
of course, yeah.
Ancred as well. And similarly with classical text and 14, there can be some quite long,
is still in a Shakespearean play.
Thoughts.
Nobody told Urianger that he doesn't have to do that anymore.
And so being able to kind of navigate your way through that in a kind of coherent way, it's definitely helped having that training in verse and classical text.
I love Shakespeare. It's like my heartbeat as an actor. And when people ask me the role that I would like to play, it's always some sort of Shakespearean role. When I was training in drama school, there were instantly actors who they just excelled at modern text. And people used to say that to me about classical. They said, you just suit it. It suits you and you clearly love it. When it comes to relating that to my work as ALISAIE, I think Colin's right. Like my training ground with Shakespeare really was at the Globe. Of course, it's outdoors and it's nigh on in the round. And you have people, right down by your toes and people up there and people behind you and people in seats. It's a really intense, steep learning curve working somewhere like that. Because
it's stressful.
It's to hide behind. It is
horrible.
You
in the round,
Oh my god, it sounds horrible.
And you need to know what you're doing. But now thinking about taking that into the booth,
I would hate that.
I think Colin's right. I think it's breath control. Thinking about this game,
I think the reason I would hate it is not because of people, because I love being around people and I'm comfortable in a limelight. I would hate it because it would mean I'm forced to memorize something and then say that thing that I've supposedly memorized. That is actually because I did theater when I was in high school, and I could not get a part because I could not remember my fucking lines. Like, I'm totally comfortable on stage. I have no problems with that. But I cannot remember anything, like, at all. So I ended up doing dancing and singing because I can remember a song.
We do loads of work with vowels. Like, vowels are really important. Using, I mean, you know this, Marco, as a singer as well, being able to use a vowel well and elongate it and stretch it out to your advantage to lean into a particular word.
Yeah, that's why I played
is
dancer.
really helpful. And some of the stuff that we do at the end of sessions, when we do all the big kind of fighty stuff, all the big elongated vowels, we need that training behind us, you know, and finding the contrasts, you know, within the text, the kind of black and white, light and dark, all that stuff is so Shakespearean. And that sort of antithesis, we need that in the game as much as we do if we were both to go on and play the Macbeths this evening, you know, or in Hamlet this evening. So it's just in a different context, but you can still use the same skill. And you don't think about it. I don't think, oh, I'm being a little bit Shakespearean here. You don't think in you, it's in your blood, you know.
It's funny because when I started voiceover, I sort of just was like, it was one of these things where my last gig was in France and I just sort of sat down and I was like, you know what, I want to start voiceover. And I like took a couple classes and I was like, I've had 10 years of opera. How hard can it be? No, it's so much harder to, like, you know, find that internal voice and like how to use the technique. I think a lot of people are very prone to critique and criticism of voiceover and voice actors, but in acting in general, but they don't actually know like the technique and the skill that goes into creating these things that are, you know, and they don't even think about that.
It seems like it's so much harder to go into the booth and do that kind of acting compared to being face to face with someone. Like, I feel like I remember that being an issue for, was it Sir Ian McKellen who talked about difficulty with, I mean, this isn't the same as being in a voice acting booth, but being on a stage with like green screen and a lot of stuff that isn't physically there, like it's got to feel extremely different than just talking to someone face to face and, like, you know, being able to, you know, move around and do the choreography and stuff. But then again, I guess I guess if you train, you can learn to still get that same level of intensity that you would have on the stage.
The fact that like half the time you're just auditioning and that's the job, you know, you're lucky if you book and that's your work. The whole thing is just such a fascinating thing. With characters that you've been with for so long, are there certain arcs that have stood out to you?
Yeah, it was Ian McKellen who's shooting The Hobbit.
Have really
yeah,
meant
that's
a
what
lot
I'm thinking
to you,
about.
like both in the booth and then
That's
also
right.
like sort of witnessing them outside of the space?
I mean, for me, I find it hard to recall
because there's so many.
What has stuck with me is hearing how much it has helped other people, especially with Endwalker. I do remember being like moved by some of the text, but yeah, I haven't kind of hung on to what those instances were. But hearing, like, going to conventions and things and kind of hearing firsthand what the game has meant to people and the awful experiences that people have gone through in which the game's helped them through, that really touches me, and it's not something that I take for granted at all. And to be able to be a part of someone's life in that way that has helped them in a positive way, yeah, I think that's a really awesome thing to be a part of.
Really nice.
I've definitely had moments. I think the confidence that we're getting in studio now,
honestly, like, Endwalker did help me mentally through the time that I was going through. Like, 6.0 Endwalker's story was really, it was exactly the message that I needed to hear at that time when I lost my home. And like the fact that you just have to try to survive, like that was it for me for a while. Like, just survive, try to get to the next day, remember that there's hope, there's always going to be, like, just keep fucking trudging forward. If that's all you can do, then do that. And then maybe, you know, with the power of friendship, you can see it to the other side. And those would happen. And so I'm glad that he sees the value in that, because I'm sure that I know that I'm far from the only person who has had that experience with Endwalker.
We're in our kind of 9th year,
Forge ahead,
heading towards 10th year. I've noticed there have been moments in studio, without ruining anything for anyone, obviously, which have felt a lot more real than they had in previous years. And I think that's to do with maturity as actors. I think a lot has happened for both of us in the last, you know, in our lives. A huge amount has happened, actually, personally, for both of us in our lives. And I think you carry that with you. You know this, Marco. You carry it with you, even when you're singing, you carry it with you into studio. And you're absolutely right, Colin. We are now meeting people who come to us and they say, obviously, they know that we don't play the game at the moment. You know, we haven't done so far.
Oh, they are.
And they say, do you remember this line? Of course, when they say it, I'm like, I do remember it. And there are moments, there are...
Is ALISAIE playing? I know ALPHINAUD started.
To be moments where you'll say a line and there's like this kind of lull in the studio, but it's such a full, rich silence because everyone's just taking a breath, because I think we're beginning to realize really the gravity of some of these lines. And that's what I mean about good direction. When you get good direction, and they push you that much further, because they know what we've got in us. You know, talk about Shakespeare, like they know what we've got inside of us. So I've definitely had moments like that. They really spur you on when you meet people, and you see comments and stuff online of people saying that you don't know what you've done for me, actually. And we know, we're actors, we're aware that it's the character. It's really the character's story and their arcs. And Ali and Alfie are so very different in many ways.
She's so humble.
And often people come...
It's insane. Like, she's so humble. She's like, we are just this tiny little speck in the world of Final Fantasy XIV. And we're just so small. And now she's like, it's really, you know what? It's not even us, man. It's the characters. I love her for that, but it's like...
So to us at comms, don't they? And they're like, Beth, I'm so sorry, but Alfie, Colin, you know, and I'm like, don't really apologize. Your story's your story.
It's like, girl, give yourself a little credit, okay? Like, you were bringing this character to life, and if you weren't good at it, then people wouldn't resonate with that character as much as they do. Like, you're the voice, so...
And for some reason, ALPHINAUD's touched them, or ALISAIE's stories touched them in a different way. So we're just learning that, and I think we're being more courageous in studio with how far we're taking things. And I'm game for that now, because I know that they'll tell us when to stop if it's too much. And so I think, you know, we have had some really, really poignant moments. Some of mine are right at the start. I've talked about this a little bit before. Really, really, really early days when I had sort of big dialogue about Louis Soir and her relationship with her grandfather and all of that stuff. And
that
some
was
of those
awesome,
speeches, there were moments I thought, okay, wow, you know, this is really significant. And taking a breath when you're, you know, you talk about like seeing the lines technically, and obviously lots of video game lines are one-offs, but when you have like a big chunk like that, it's a big thing. But yeah, the stuff more recently, I won't ruin it for anyone, but some of the stuff with the twins more recently, we know what that is doing to people. Even though we're not together in the booth, we're now carrying a bit of each other into those lines, you know, and I think we're beginning to realize what this really... Okay,
let's take this apart. We know what that is doing to people. What do you mean? What do you mean? You know that what is doing is something bad is going to be devastating for people? No, they wouldn't.
Really means to people long term.
Well, it seems like you also...
No, she was really vague. It doesn't tell me anything.
Been spending a lot more time together.
Okay.
And you obviously have like a natural chemistry as this sort of sibling friendship relationship that I think also helps when you step into the booth and you don't necessarily like, you don't have your partner there, but you can... It's such an odd thing, you know, because it's so much more fun in some ways to play off of somebody. But when the two of you especially, I feel like for a long time the cast of Final Fantasy XIV was not doing like marketing tours or going to things, and it's been really nice. And I guess since Endwalker, really, there's been an increase in like folks like, you know, like that really fun cake decorating the cake video, you know, like stuff like that I've noticed that like, and just like going out and about.
That cake making that we did.
Yeah, I love that video. But, you know, but even just being able, you know, going to KupoCon or going to just getting out there, I feel like it's high time that, you know, you also, both of you get
KupoCon. Have any of y'all ever been to KupoCon? I have never done
it. The rewards of the hard work. I played I've got to spend, I think it's like 500 hours, some ridiculous amount. When I wasn't gigging, I was just playing video games. And then the pandemic happened, and then I was like, okay, I have a lot of time. But so when my dad passed 2 years ago, and it was Endwalker was that like a couple months after, so it was like the grief was very raw and very fresh for me. And man, I mean, the amount of the crying that I did, which I don't cry at video games ever, like it's just not something I've ever done. But yeah, like the Endwalker stuff was just so personal. There was no like pretense around it, which I think really like was what made it so naturally easy to be emotional about, you know.
That was my first video of his that I remember seeing. It was his reaction talking about Flo and how much that meant to him and how personal that was for him with his father passing. And I related to that very much because that song had a lot of meaning for me during that time too. Because honestly, the Endwalker period, that year after Endwalker came out, it was the worst year of my life. And Flow was this beautiful song that like kind of encouraged you to just have hope in spite of it. And I remember, I don't think I ever released it, and I don't know if I ever will, but there were a lot of times when I would sing that song, and I recorded myself singing it several times on my journey. Like, I have recordings of myself singing it in Poland and France, and like then when I got to America, and it's just awful to watch. That's why I never posted it, because I'm like, I'll start singing it and I'll just start crying, and I can just sometimes I'll look back and see just how much that meant to me, and how in a lot of ways the game was sort of a crutch, emotional crutch for me. And that's not a bad thing, but like something that I needed. And so I really related to Marco in that, in his discussion of that song, because it's so much impact for so many of us.
I mean, because obviously we don't live in that world. We understand that it's fictional, and yet the reality of the situation was so genuine. It was very easy. It was a very cathartic. I think listening to Flo and like playing Endwalker was actually an extremely cathartic experience for me. So I guess thank you. This is my story about your characters.
Marco, I've seen you sing Flo, and it made me so.
You watched that? Oh,
yeah, everyone watched.
Really, 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 really beautiful.
It was really beautiful.
Thanks.
It really touched me, because I think if you are willing, and there are other people in your position who've spoken out about personal things, other video game actors, people that we know who've been willing to share a bit of that. And I think you doing that facilitates other people to stop pretending that they're okay all the time. And I just found, I love that you did it through music, but you didn't just sing the song, you spoke about your experience with your father. And I just thought it was so powerful. And I think the more we do this, Colin and I talk about this all the time, the more we drop the mask and the more we are our real selves, and we share our grief and we share our joy with people, the more it normalizes pain. And I think we can bring our pain into our work. All three of us will have been through stuff that we've spoken of and some that we haven't. That's where the power in this job comes in, is we can use that as a tool. We can use this medium as a tool to share a bit of that and say, look, we can be honest and open about these things. And I thought it was really powerful, Mark.
She's so real for that.
Thank you. It's so funny. I think there's a big divide.
That's exactly what ALISAIE would say. Isn't that the song that you joined Husker Alex to perform the big 200 or something person video? No, that was Close in the Distance.
We're about to dive in deep here. There's a big divide for an audience versus a performer, where our job on stage and in a voiceover booth or wherever is about relaying emotion and you're right, tearing that wall down so that people can feel and can relate. I mean, no one can relate to a 400-year-old opera, and yet if we allow that sort of vulnerability to come down, you can. I think anybody that really loves what they do and has a passion for acting, and ultimately that's really what this is. It's like expressing emotion and expressing the human condition. It doesn't matter what packaging you put on it. That's
a really interesting take, that like the raw emotion is what shines through, even if it's like hundreds of year old opera that people don't even know. Like, it doesn't matter, because it's the vulnerability and the passion, like that raw sensations that shine through, that anybody can relate to. That's really beautiful. Marco's so based.
That's what we do,
It's a powerful thing, because I think it can help stories in general. They can help people work out how they feel about things going on in their own lives. It can help people articulate their own thoughts. I mean, art in general, drama, has this capacity to be very therapeutic. And as much as the game has helped other people. So I lost my brother a few years ago. Worst time in my life, but I was really struck by just how supportive the Final Fantasy community was during that time. I mean, they helped financially, because my brother, he was in Thailand, and they helped pay for medical bills. But then
we were
also
like spreading the word, and we were trying to get as much support as possible towards the GoFundMe that he had set up. And it was it felt like someone in our family was hurting, and like we all needed to band together to help them. And I wish that never happened to him. It's
What
really, really sad.
really touched me was all the messages, receiving so many messages from people, and lots of quotes as well, lots of ALPHINAUD quotes, which was really, really touching, about finding strength in the darkness and keeping on, basically. And yeah, that
so
really
nice.
did help during that
Oh my
horrible
God.
time.
It's hard, right? Because unless you've lived it in one way or another, grief takes all of us by surprise, and grief is something that is a lived experience and is a known experience. But the problem is that as a society, like before my dad died, I would have said, that sucks, I'm sorry to hear that. But because my dad died, I completely understand that sensation of that grief is it's a type of pain that you don't really know until you know, and you will know it, and that's an inevitability. But it really changes how you perceive life, and as performers, it sort of brings you're right, Beth, when you say take the mask off, because ultimately that's the rub. It's a very interesting thing to live with grief and to navigate as performers too with grief, and how that this is very the heart channel sort of opens up and it leaves.
This is such an honest and vulnerable interview. This is an insanely good interview. Oh my God. Like, talking about grief, and grief, what I've learned is ugly. Grief can be ugly. Grief isn't always pretty. Grief can change you. Grief can make you do unexpected things. Grief can, it can affect you in totally bizarre ways. And it's not always easy. It's not always something that other people need to see,
I've thought a lot about this.
Do you know what's so interesting is our greatest fear as actors? People say to me sometimes, they say, oh,
and
you're
yet,
a professional.
At the same time, you need that support from other people. That's one of the things that's so difficult about grief, because on the one hand, you can't isolate yourself. You should not do that. But on the other, it cannot always be pretty, like I said. And you don't want to be a burden on others, but you also can't be alone.
Pretender. You lie as your profession. And I find it, I understand why people say that, but I find it frustrating, because I teach acting now sometimes to younger ones, and it's such a privilege explaining to them the process and how, of course, there's many, many different ways to learn to act. But actually what we do is that we are willing to actually tear ourselves open a little bit and share some of the, and of course, it's not just grief, it's polarized, isn't it? There's so much in acting. We can use these, turn our sorrow into strength. We can use these things as a blessing in our career as and when we're ready. And I think the beautiful thing is it's your choice when you're ready and how much of yourself you are willing to give, because it is a profession and it is our job. And I think we have to guard we are getting deep. We have to guard our hearts. We have to guard our hearts. But I think it's a powerful thing. And as a woman, my experience is different. I think about, I've had my 2 children since I started this job, and my experience with them in terms of motherhood, and I've got life experience now that I didn't have then. So I think it's amazing that actually when life throws you these trials, it gives you perseverance that you've never had before. And I think it can shift gear into character, and you can use it, in your job. It's powerful.
Well, even even if the character is optimistic, or I played this character in Genshin Impact named Dvorak, who was a musician. He was a very warm sort of.
Oh, he's in Genshin Impact. They put him in Genshin Impact.
Person that enjoyed talking about, the magic of music, and how which is funny because that's what I accidentally ended up doing for a living. But that was really fun because it's a very vulnerable topic of discussion, talking about music and talking about how, the arts move us. And I think reminding oneself of why they have landed in the sort of field that they've landed in is always a really helpful reminder. But it's just crazy to me that even looking at the character arcs for both of these characters, and how both of you obviously have had your own personal life ups and downs, and seeing how much both characters have sort of matured with you as well as with people. So it's just an incredibly, I think that's a very human element that I think that's probably why people attach themselves so much to it, because it's very I think, honest and very real, you know?
Yeah, and also I think because the game has been going on for so long, people have literally grown up with these characters.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what struck me talking to someone at some convention. I can't remember which one, but yeah, just how they started the game when they were literally children and now are adults.
Started in
That is kind of
2015.
wild. And so yeah, these characters.
I'm like, wait, I started in 2015. That wasn't that long ago. And then I looked at the year. No way, dude. No way, dude. It's gonna be. But that wasn't that long ago. Like, it's gonna be 10 years next year. No, that's not. 2019 just happened. 2019 just happened, right? 2015 was 5 years ago at most.
Have been like kind of friends that they have grown up with over the years, which is kind of incredible. And also because it is such a unique thing that we're a part of, because getting to play.
What did I even do in this time? Wait, like, what did I accomplish in this time?
Character so long.
Oh, it's so crazy.
It's such a gift. They are so kind of like fleshed out and so detailed.
How long
Not
ago
like a
did you
stock
start WoW?
character, so they have.
I started WoW in 2004. I have 2 games I'm playing where one of them I started 10 years ago, and the other one I started 20 years ago.
Yeah. Really developed and
Oh my
changed
God.
as they have grown and as they have experienced all
Oh
these
my
different
God.
things throughout the expansions.
Oh
She's
my
pretty
God.
I mean, that's like such a dream to have like a role that you like. It's funny because like you never quite know when it will end, but the fact that it's been going on for so long, it's just crazy because it's like it's such an active part of your identity at this point. I feel like, I assume, right? Because it's crazy. I mean, like, you know, we're lucky if we get to do like a recurring role twice, let alone for 9.
Okay, didn't I say this interview's 40 minutes long? I shouldn't watch the whole thing because it's a really long. I'm pretty sure I did say that. Let's give a little yeah, what the hell? I've been watching it. I'm 30 minutes through. I did skip a little bit. Which expansion do you like best? Yeah, I'll leave a bunch of this that you can listen to on your own. I'll listen to the last question.
You probably don't have an opinion on this, but which expansion do you like better? Either which they liked to act for the most, or if they play the game, does one come to mind?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed Endwalker the most because I felt like that went in.
There's a lot to chew on.
Really kind of juicy stuff to
really
get our teeth
juicy.
to.
I think it's probably going to change over the years.
I mean, they're probably talking about 6.0, right?
Realized this over the years that our paths have been
Though Estinian doing push-ups was pretty juicy.
quite different. Like they're coming back together in different ways, and it's mirroring in life now. But yeah, I felt like I sort of cut my teeth a bit more in Stormblood, and I think Endwalker, it's all began to feel a bit more real, and I think that's because of our relationship now in real life. We're working together more, and we're like touring together and jumping on planes together, and I think it's really having an impact on how I see the game. But yeah, I suspect that answer will change over the years.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's crazy, and I'm just so excited for both of you.
I think she's considering playing. That's why she said that answer will change over the years. It's because, is that a copium? Okay, maybe that's actually a copium.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a mesmerizing and wonderful experience for me to, as a lifelong Final Fantasy fan, to really dive into Final Fantasy XIV and experience it as an adult and have it be this like nostalgia bomb, but also this really, really well thought out and interesting and unique story. I mean, 500 hours is sort of abnormal for me for any game, but like a bit of a virtual tourist. But so Final Fantasy XIV in a lot of ways as a game feels like home for me. So I mean, I'm just so excited for both of you for Dawn Trail.
Yeah, does she know about the free
trial? Also just to see where we go and where things continue, and hopefully Dawn Trail was a little bit more relaxing compared to Endwalker, and a little bit of a it seems like a very fun. I'm sure there'll be twists and turns, but hopefully it was a more relaxed adventure.
God, there's a poker face. I was like, He's saying, oh, hopefully it's more relaxing, and I'm hyper analyzing their facial expressions. Look, do you see anything? Look, when he says, oh, I hope Dawn Trail's gonna be more relaxing.
Story, I mean, 500 hours, Final Fantasy 14, to see where we go and Walker, and you know, and hopefully Dawn Trail was a little bit more relaxing.
Look at their faces.
And,
look at their faces.
A little bit of a, it seems like a very fun. I'm sure they'll.
No. What do you think? What do you think? We have any poker players?
Be twists and turns, but
not. I feel like it's not gonna be chill. It's not gonna be chill because earlier we heard, oh, Dawn Trail's gonna give you lots of reasons to cry. Is this a hide the pain smiles that we're seeing? They
hopefully
know.
It was
they know.
a more relaxed adventure for both of you.
Yeah, relaxed.
Thank you both, Beth and Colin, for coming.
Well, you know what's really relaxing? Crying a lot. Like when you're done crying
on and just talking with, you know, about the deep stuff, the good stuff, the acting stuff, the Final Fantasy stuff.
Beth is like, sure, Jan. Yes.
I'm glad that we made this work.
Was.
I know we've been trying to do this for nigh on a year at this point, but I'm so grateful that it panned out, and just thank you both for spending the time with me today. So thanks.
Okay. Wow, what a fantastic interview. MarcoMeatball is probably one of the coolest people on the internet. He's just he's such a nice person. He's such an honest and open person. And this was a really beautiful interview where they talked about pain and being vulnerable and how you can show emotion through your artwork. And he's just so fucking cool. What a cool guy. And oh my God, I loved this interview. And Marco is in Genshin Impact and apparently also plays the Star Rail, which is pretty freaking cool as well. Yeah. He's just so amazing. He's also an incredible opera singer, which is very difficult. You know, it's not easy. I can do a little opera. Do you want to hear it? Yeah, I can do. Okay. Did you like that? That's not very good. Oh. Okay. Don't give up streaming. What do you think? I'm not going to be the next big opera? You tried. Thank you.